Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept our humble obeisances. All glories to Jagadguru Srila Prabhupada. All glories to our revered speaker for today, Her Grace CITI SAKTIDEVI, and all glories to our assembled Vaishnava devotees. Devotees, we thank you all for being here as always, and it is an honor to have Her Grace speak with us today. But at CITI Shakti, you are welcome to your own home. There are a few devotees here at the moment, but devotees will be joining.
Thank you so much. No problem.
So let me see if I could give you the sharing privilege.
Yes, please.
So you may want to share. Yes. Okay.
Thank you. Let's just start with the Mangalacharan.
Sure.
Omagyantimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Gadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yata Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagna Ragnatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Sarvadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padhan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So we are continuing our study of Canto 3, Chapter 13, and we're now on verse 46. I'm just going to share my screen with all of you. Please confirm that you can see that.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay. Maitreya vacha ityupasthiyamano sa munibhir brahmavadhibhi salile swakura kranta upadhatta vitavanim. The sage Maitreya said, the Lord being thus worshipped by all the great sages and transcendentalists, touched the earth with his hooves and placed it on the water. Purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. The earth was placed on the water by his inconceivable potency. The Lord is all-powerful, and therefore he can sustain the huge planets either on the water or in the air, as he likes. The tiny human brain cannot conceive how these potencies of the Lord can act. Man can give some vague explanation of the laws by which such phenomena are made possible, but actually the tiny human brain is unable to conceive of the activities of the Lord, which are therefore called inconceivable. Yet the frog philosophers still try to give some imaginary explanation. So we hear this often, don't we, when we read about pastimes of Krishna in whichever avatar, either because the avatar is in a form that seems inconceivable. For example, Varahadev is the form of a boar. Or perhaps the pastimes themselves are inconceivable, again, which we find here. We hear often that, the mind, Srila Prabhupada reminds us that the human brain, the human mind cannot conceive of how Krishna's potencies act, how he does things, or even why he does things. At best, like he says, we can give some vague explanation of laws. We can figure out laws through mathematics or physics or studying society or psychology or the body. We can figure things out that this is how this might happen, how this could happen. But to get the full picture is beyond is beyond the function of the mind. So much so that, our human brain and human mind doesn't even have full knowledge of itself, right? If we look at trying to understand our own minds and brains with our own mind and brain, our knowledge of it and awareness of it is still quite limited. We are still studying our own minds in terms of, you look at medics, scientists, psychologists, philosophers who are trying to figure it out just using the power of their own minds and other people's minds. At best, we might understand, the mind to be connected to the brain, and that when there is a change in some chemistry of the brain, that leads to changes in the mind's ability to think, to feel, to perceive, and to make decisions. And equally, if somebody is more progressive, they understand that maybe the mind is more than the brain, and that our thoughts and feelings and what we experience also has some impact on the brain. You take it even further, those who really are accepting of the mind being metaphysical and not just located in the brain. This is still just based on people figuring out. They will tell you that, the mind has got, and we also understand this from the Vedas, that the mind is very vast. That there's the unconscious, the subconscious, and the conscious mind. And very little of the mind is conscious to us. Most of it is unconscious and subconscious. But again, if you leave it to figuring it out, most people will say that if you just think about it, then the unconscious mind just carries our memories from this life, from when you were a baby and when you were born. And that's the subconscious has those things. So we know this. We don't need to be told that our mind and brain's ability to figure things out is limited, right? It's limited. And one doesn't even have to really wait for a great saint to explain that to us. One can actually come to that conclusion on their own, but we don't. We don't come to that conclusion on our own. Often we don't come to that conclusion on our own because we are so invested in our sense of identity being rooted in our psychological self, our physical self, and our social self. So when you think that there is no other way to understand yourself or the world, and then there is no other aspect to you, then you just try to rely on what you have to make sense of things. It's like if you were trying to decorate a room and build furniture, and the only thing you recognized to be at your disposal to take your measurements and calculations was a small 6-inch ruler. Okay, would actually, measuring a long measuring tape would be more useful. And it's there, but you don't recognize that it's there because you don't know that there's such a thing as a long measuring tape, or you don't know that it's even in the room. So this is where we need personalities like Srila Prabhupada. This is where Guru comes in. This is where Shastra comes in. And this is where the power of understanding that we are more than the mind and brain comes in. Because when we understand we're more than the mind and brain, we don't rely solely on the faculties of the mind and brain to make sense of this world or even of Krishna. See, just look at this verse. Even as devotees, Okay? There's so much in this verse, even as devotees, that could, depending on your degree of faith, depending on where you're at, make you go, I'm not sure how much of this I can absorb. Okay? First of all, the Lord has come as a boar. With faith, we can accept actually if God's inconceivable and God is ultimately independent, of course, he can come in any form he wants. You may even accept very easily, well, of course, he can be bigger than the earth, no problem. If it's not an ordinary boar, and this is the Supreme Personality of Godhead as a boar, of course, he can be much, much bigger than the earth. Of course, the earth can fit just between his two hooves. But maybe you may start asking questions when you see that he puts the earth back on top of the water, when we understand the earth to be suspended in air, right? When we understand the earth to be suspended in air and be floating based on some gravitation. So we're all going to, based on our degree of faith, the mind is going to place some barrier to fully receiving the nectar that's there in this verse, because actually there's a real sweetness. There's a real personal and affectionate sweetness in the interaction between Varahadev and Bhumi. It is the affectionate sweetness that is there. Actually, it's at its peak between Radha and Krishna, but that flavor of loving affection between Krishna and his Shakti, okay, whether it's as Radha and Krishna, whether it's as Bhumi and Varadev, that sweetness is always there. There's an affection there, there's a gentleness there, there's a protection and a love there in all of the interactions. Even in this very sweet interaction of he touches her with his hooves and then places her on the water. You know, there's a more than what it seems on the surface. But we may not find ourselves connecting with verses like this when either our mind is distracted by the logistics or our mind is just covered with very subtle dust. You know, a window or a mirror doesn't have to be that dirty for it to block our vision. Even when it's smudged, it's kind of like, you know, if you've ever put on glasses and they're slightly smudged, it feels like you can't see things, even though they're clear in front of you. It feels uncomfortable. So you may not see you don't experience the joy of connecting with what you're seeing just because your glasses are smudged. So you may be hearing this going, yeah, I can believe Krishna can be a boar. Yeah, I can believe he's bigger than the earth. Yes, I can believe he can rest on water and not in the air. Yes, I can believe, of course, he's inconceivable. But are we feeling joy when we read it? Are we feeling taste when we read it? Are we feeling attraction when we read it? Are we, when we hear this verse, going, I can't wait to read the next and the next and the next and the next. I can't put this book down. Or do we read it and go, oh, what a lovely ending to a nice pastime. Hare Krishna, I've read my 30 minutes today. Let me close the book. You see, so faith is, it's not just about accepting that Krishna can do anything and everything. It's not just about accepting that the inconceivability is part of his beauty and attractiveness. It's not even just about saying, I'm going to stop trying to figure things out with my mind and park this until I can understand it. It's about, really, is my faith almost like this is no longer faith now. This is such an acceptance that he is who he is, that I am delighted to hear anything, everything about him without question. See, if you look at the mind and the nature of the mind is vast, right? If we go even beyond, we go beyond the normal social and psychological and medical understandings of the mind. Shastra gives us even more insight into the human mind. And even the Shastric, understanding of what the mind is makes the mind a very powerful attribute that we have. Powerfully destructive, but also powerfully helpful, depending on how we relate to it. So it's very vast. We hear in Shastra that the mind can reach any corner of the material universe. Actually, any corner of material creation. Why? Because we have been in a lot of corners of material creation. That's all locked into our unconscious. Our previous lifetimes are locked into our unconscious mind. The mind is deep. We talk about this conscious, subconscious, and unconscious mind. When we say deep, like the ocean, where does the bottom of the ocean, where is the bottom of the ocean really? Do we really actually know? Has any human has any human being ever been able to go right to the bottom? And would they even tell us about it? If they had, is the bottom even perceivable to human beings? So the mind is like it's deep like that, and it's broad in its reach. Okay, because it's storing everything we have experienced in this life and previously. But all of these things, they are working away in the background, like the programming of a computer hard drive or processing system. Yes, there's so much you do on your computer. You're using a very small proportion of your computer when you're on your computer or your iPad or your phone. You're only aware of the very surface level of what's going on. There's a massive operating system behind it. There's a massive memory behind it, which stores things that you don't know. So our mind is like that. Our mind is like this giant, natural computer with a hard drive, with a processing system. And we are a product of all of these impressions. See, this body, this psychology, the personality we've adopted, the way we think, the skills we have, who we are in this world, they're actually all a manifestation of our aversion to Krishna. This is what we want our getaway car to look like. If I'm going to get away from you, Krishna, this is how I want it to look. This is how I want it to think. This is how I want it to behave. And this is who I want it to be in the world. That same getaway car can become the vehicle that takes you back. But as long as our mind is predominantly rooted in being driven by and living in our roles, relationships, and desires in this world, we miss out on turning that getaway car around and having it facing Krishna. So when we are, when we hear these pastimes, see, Krishna explains in Bhagavad Gita that one who understands the nature of my appearance and activities never returns here. The transcendental nature of my appearance and activities never returns here. To understand the transcendental nature requires repeated hearing, but submissive hearing. Submission means accepting. Submission happens predominantly in the mind. Because if we look at our human attitude of having faith, human attitude of submissiveness, human attitude of gratitude, human ability to receive, those things sit in the mind. They're not so much something we do with the body. With the body, we may open the books. With the eyes, we may read. With the brain and speech, we may articulate. But have I absorbed it? Have I received it? Have I accepted it? Am I present with it? Am I staying with it? Because as we do that, then the mind starts to make deep roots in Shastra, makes deep roots in transcendental sound vibration. It makes deep roots in transcendental pastimes. And this is the force that slowly turns that getaway vehicle from being outward facing, bahirmukhya, right, to antarmukhya, gets the mind to face inwards by this strengthening of the spiritual intelligence. See, Srila Prabhupada and Srimad Bhagavatam explains that actually in the 11th canto, Krishna tells Uddhav that as one's mind becomes pure, becomes illuminated by transcendental knowledge and experience, It is no longer choked by what is in the unconscious and subconscious mind. And so it becomes broad and transparent. Broad and transparent. It becomes clear, right? Broad and transparent. That means it can see beyond the limitations of the usual mind and brain and see beyond just the desires and fears of this self. And it becomes transparent, becomes clear. One can see, because the mind is a bridge, one can see outward very clearly and one can see inward very clearly and move in between the two states. And in fact, actually live in both states at the same time, looking inwards while simultaneously looking outwards. You know, the way this operating system, these impressions we have in our unconscious mind and subconscious mind, they're not to be underestimated. We are constantly adding to them, right? Every experience we have, there are innumerable sensory experiences within one experience, innumerable I don't want to use the word assault in such a violent way, but it's like an assault because it is forcing us to look outwards, but assaults on our senses, distractions, pulls, attractions, repulsions that we don't even notice. In any given situation, your mind has, your eyes have 1,000 things to look at. You might only focus on one. Your ears have 1,000 different sounds to listen to. You may focus on one or two. Your body's in contact with so many different sensations of touch. You may only focus, again, on one or two. Same with your sense of smell, same with your sense of taste. Your mind has to process all of that. And the vast majority of it leaves impressions in the subconscious and your unconscious. If we want to seriously take to the path of spiritual life and make steady progress, consistent progress, and fast progress where it's not a race, but we are pushing forward with steady determination. We can really help ourselves. We can really help how receptive we are to what we read in here by changing the impressions that we lay in our subconscious and unconscious. Because those things are not just sitting there doing nothing. See, when you repeatedly do something over and over and over again, those things that were originally in your unconscious start to creep their way up to the top. Just like an air bubble creeps up from the bottom of a glass of water to the top, or an air bubble goes from the bottom of the ocean to the top. What is it that brings it up? It's the bigger it gets. So the more times you do something, that bubble gets bigger and it makes its way up through to the subconscious, and then it comes into the conscious mind. And in this way, when we've done something repeatedly or heard something repeatedly and it comes into our conscious mind, we foolishly think, oh, this is my idea. How much of our dress sense do we think is our idea when really it's a product of so many different things we've been exposed to and seen? This is how fashion changes, right? This is how even our ideas in the social aspects of Krishna consciousness in our community change. Depends on who we talk to. If we hear something enough times, the first time we hear it, we might think, that's a bit strange. That doesn't sound very Krishna conscious. But if we hear it enough times, it just becomes normal, right? We almost ignore the fact that there was a point at which I thought this was not healthy. So we can really help ourselves by changing the impressions that we lay in our mind. Because if we repeatedly engage in purely materialistic actions, or more commonly, actions which might be even within our devotional practice, but are interpreted or motivated by unhealthy things, then we are laying the foundation for what our next getaway car is going to look like. But as we faithfully and submissively and with attention engage with the 9 processes of devotional service, what we see, what we taste, what we hear, what we touch, what we smell, the more attentive you are to it, the deeper the impression it leaves. And the thing about transcendental impressions is they quite literally kick out and erase anything else. Doesn't matter how many lifetimes it's been sitting there for, doesn't matter how deeply rooted it is. It's like a eraser on a whiteboard. It's like nothing ever existed. Okay. And we know this. Lord Chaitanya tells us this. It's the first quality of the 7 opulences of the holy name that he explains in the first verse of the Shikshastakam. The first one is Cheto Darpana Marjanam, cleanses the heart or cleanses the mind of millions of lifetimes of dust. This is how the mind becomes broad and transparent. It cleans it. Chanting cleans it. Eating prasadam cleans it. Okay, any transcendental activity, but specifically the holy name, because holy names are prescriptions, so it's got a special potency. And in this age, the holy name is more than a mantra. In this age, the holy name is Krishna himself. So we have the deity of the Lord dancing on our tongue. We have the Lord's company anytime we want, with no hard and fast rules. There's no circumstance which optimizes the chanting, you know? So the number one assured way to stop being dependent on the mind to be our determinator of whether Shastra seeps in or not is whatever devotional practice we're engaging in, and even more so when we're reading, that we try and be as present as possible. Read with rapt attention, reading with regularity. If we can fall in love with fiction books and characters in fiction stories where they so much become part of our life, right? You know, so many kids and even adults, they'll make references throughout their day of Harry Potter or, you know, some character that they've really embraced from a book. Even if our love for Krishna hasn't become transcendental, how much more wonderful would our conversations be if our day-to-day references were related to a pastime of Krishna's? Wouldn't that be so joyful? And, you know, this then ensures that what's being, the way our subtle body, our mind, our intelligence, our ego is being shaped, is surely being shaped into something that is no longer a getaway car. At the very least, what we're becoming is a car that just takes us, you know, embracing again and getting a car that takes us home. Because that is the right type of car to have. And this is why all of our acharyas, they pray constantly. I don't care where you send me, just make sure I don't forget you. Some of our remembrance, yes, there's transcendental remembrance, but there's also remembrance in this body and mind. And if we can remember and keep remembering, so in such a deep-rooted way that every single, our unconscious, our subconscious, and our conscious mind is filled with nothing but Krishna, then it doesn't matter what type of car we get, how the engine runs, how long the journey is, what the lifespan of the car is, how polished it is, how beautiful it is, how many passengers it carries. None of that matters because the destination is assured, because it's no longer something that's a getaway car. This is why this prayer of the acharyas that please ensure that I never forget you. What they're saying is, I don't want another getaway car. Yeah, I'm happy to take another body. You can give me as many cars as you like, Krishna, but just make sure that they're always facing you. Make sure that I'm always coming towards you. The mind can seem even more insurmountable when we understand it from the perspective of Shastra, right? One of the things about not understanding the mind from the perspective of Shastra is that you can feel like, yeah, I'm going to conquer my mind. You know, you hear a lot about it in, you know, modern pop psychology. People want to master their mind and get control of their mind and look for all sorts of techniques, whether it's breath work, meditation, positive attitudes, or some sort of mantra that they tell themselves that, you know, gets them to control their mind and gets them to have the best life and be the best that they can be. There's like a confidence to it, but it's the confidence of only having half the story, right? Sometimes when you hear the full story of what the mind is like from Shastra, it can make you even more bewildered. It can make you go, oh, okay, really? So really there's actually only one way to control the mind, and that's to rediscover and connect with who I am beyond the mind and actually who I'm connected with beyond just what the mind and senses can perceive. sometimes we miss the simplicity of what Krishna is looking for in our devotional practice. You know, when Prabhupada says, oh, Krishna consciousness is simple for the simple and complicated for the complicated, often the complexities of our devotional life are based on not wanting to really see what Krishna is asking of us, but being very attached to our idea of what Krishna should be asking of us. Right? Krishna very simply, and his devotees very simply, you know, whatever process you take, there's no hard and fast rules really for any of them, especially not the chanting. There's not even any hard and fast rules to prasadam. We hear this in CC, you know, in the Madhya Lila, in the interactions between Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya and Lord Chaitanya. They very explicitly say that actually, although there are so many rules and regulations around eating food, when it comes to prasadam, there are no rules and regulations. You don't even have to bathe, brush your teeth, nothing. You just must consume it immediately because prasadam means mercy. Right? It's a medium of mercy, like the holy name is. As Lord Chaitanya says, there's no hard and fast rules. But the hard and fast rules, they apply primarily to where, when, how you do it. What there are and what does send Krishna a very clear message of whether we are for him or not is the rules, or the, not even rules, the principles that underpin relationship. Principles that underpin relationship. So if we look at relationships, right? Although there's no hard and fast rules for chanting, but chanting is our primary way to cleanse the mind, the dust of the mind from millions of lifetimes of attitudes about our different types of getaway cars that we've had, desires for what we could have, you know. The principles that are based on relationship are really, the chanting is based on relationship because we are dealing with a person. In the Adi Lila in 1722, it's explained that Krishna is his name. As in Krishna comes, he incarnates in this age as his name. So we are dealing with a person. So he is looking at our attitude when we call him. He is looking at our endeavor when we call him. He's looking at our attitude when we read about him, our endeavor when we're reading. See, and this is a really nice thing I picked up from one of Sachinanda Maharaj's Kartik inspirations. He was talking about how, and actually he was quoting Srila Prabhupada, a class that Srila Prabhupada gave in Seattle. Srila Prabhupada pointed out that in every process of the 9 processes of devotional service, reading, hearing, worshipping the deity, prayer, we approach Krishna, right? Oh, okay, I'm going to approach the deity. I want to approach the books. You know, I'm going to go to Krishna and pray, right? But when we chant, Krishna approaches us. It's Prabhupada. When we chant Krishna's name, Krishna is approaching us. So when Krishna is approaching us, how do we receive him? How we receive someone we invite determines how long they stay. It determines when they go away. It determines whether they stay. Right? Because every time, every word, Hare, Krishna, Ram, Krishna's already with us. He's approached us because he said, I will come as my name. And to the degree that we are engaged in that moment with that person as he approaches us, to receive him and see it as personal time, to that degree, we're no longer living in the mind and the false ego. We're not actually even in our getaway car. We are quite literally in the transcendental realm. We may not be able to perceive it, but that sound vibration that enters our ear, that's Krishna approaching us. He's approaching us through the ear. Are we going to pay attention to him? So this is a very personal, I really found this so profoundly helpful. You know, that when I call Krishna, call his name, he approaches me. He comes. Am I receiving him? By hearing. And Prabhupada would say just hear, because when you're hearing, if you call someone and they come before you, You look at them to receive them. Yes? Right? People take lessons in eye contact. Right? So how much ear contact do we make when we call him? Maybe we're not, there's this phrase, there's this term, adhar, respectful affection, right? Do we meet Krishna do we hear him with respectful affection? Maybe we don't yet really have that kind of feeling towards him yet. Maybe the japa isn't quite there yet. Maybe the relationship isn't there where it feels respectful, and maybe it doesn't even feel affectionate. But we can show our respect by being attentive. The other thing is, if we don't feel respectful or attentive or affectionate, we could also be curious. I wonder what would happen if I just listened. I've called you, I'm just going to listen because you're here. Or even interest. This would be interesting to see if I just said this mantra. We can go back to Godhead with one mantra, right? We just have to chant Krishna's name sincerely once, and that's enough. Let me do an experiment. This next mantra, let me just be fully present. Not worry about the previous mantra, not be anxious and guilty that, the last mantra was so bad. So we're not even with the current mantra. We're stuck 5 seconds ago, right? Not worry about the next mantra, or how am I going to get through another 10 rounds? But again, we're not here right now. So just this one mantra, if I was to chant it perfectly, listen perfectly, as if fully submitting to the truth that when I call Krishna's name, he's approaching me. Let me receive him fully and see if he stays. Because actually, a big part of our attentiveness is nothing to do with our mental faculty, our intelligence, our ability to sit still, which mode we're governed by, what kind of body we have, how many years we've been practicing. Actually, most of that gap is closed, not by our endeavor, but by Krishna's mercy. Because when he sees us try, you're really trying to receive me. Let me stay a little longer and see how much longer you'll keep receiving me nicely for. And so in this way, there's this beautiful dance. When we think about respect or affection, it can be helpful to think about people we have respect for. Not respect, which is, when we're in their presence, we feel like we have to force it. But actually, we find ourselves spontaneously feeling respect towards them, spontaneously feeling affection. So we know what that emotion feels like. We all have an ability as human beings to get into a particular emotional state, right? If I said to you, we've got to jump a 2-foot gap, psych yourself up. You know what to do. You can psych yourself up. So even if we don't actually have that true spiritual affection for Krishna or true spiritual respect for Krishna, still we can embrace the psychological respect and state of being affectionate towards Krishna and bring that into making our japa attentive, not just orally, but also emotionally. There's no better pastime. I mean, there's lots of pastimes, but the pastime we hear the most about, giving us this understanding of the relationship between Krishna's mercy and our endeavor is the pastime of Damodara Leela, right? That 2-finger lengths gap that Yashoda Mai repeatedly finds, even when the ropes get to 150 meters long. It's actually very nicely explained in terms of Krishna's Shaktis, what's going on. See, for him to be a toddler who loves to steal butter and share it with his friends and the monkeys is a great desire of his. It is part of that rasa when he's a toddler. He loves it. So when Krishna has a desire, when his Ichha Shakti is there, his Aishwarya Shakti, or his power, right, facilitates. Okay, well then let's do everything we can to make sure you get your desire. So they orchestrate that the ropes are always too short. But Krishna is a lover of love. And there's nothing that stills his heart more than us trying to show him that we love him, even if we don't have that love yet. right? There is a stage we must go through where we try to show him that we love him, that we care about him. I'm trying to listen because I want to show you that even if I don't love you, I want to love you. I'm trying to learn to love you. And so when we endeavor, when Mother Yashoda was endeavoring, she kept trying. Why? Because her desire was, I need to protect my child. That was her expression of, I want to show you how much I love you. That was her expression. She just kept trying. Even when the other ladies laughed at her, she was humble. She saw the humor in it. Okay. But in Vatsalya Ras, the way you show your love is to protect your child. So that's what she did. It's Diwali day. I have so much to do, and you're going to get hurt if you keep climbing up things and breaking pots and stealing butter. And also, I don't want you to grow up to be an undisciplined boy. You should be a upholder of good moral principles. But ultimately, she's just completely charmed by his gorgeous face. But when he sees her sweating, when he sees her braids coming undone and flowers falling from her hair and her sari coming undone, he is so endeared by, look at my sweetness. Look at my sweet devotee. Keeps trying to show me that she loves me. Look how much she loves me. His Kripa Shakti starts to manifest even more, starts to come into bloom. And as the Kripa Shakti grows, there is no space for his Ichha Shakti and his Aishwarya Shakti. His desires go out of the window. And as he says, I know no one but my devotees, and my devotees know no one but me. I am in their heart and they are in mine. So his desire is completely replaced by Yashoda's desire. And one finger is the endeavor, one finger, Krishna's mercy. That 2-finger gap of the ropes closes in a moment. So when we're chanting, yes, we can think, wow, this sound vibration is amazing. It's going to cleanse all these amazing things from my heart and mind, and it will do. I mean, there's fantastic things about Vedic mantras written in, even in the 11th canto, Krishna explains to Uddhav that actually there's 4 aspects to sound. One aspect sits in your root chakra, one aspect in your solar plexus, so your solar chakra, one aspect in your heart chakra, and one aspect, which is the one we mainly connect with, comes through the throat. You hear it. But this is even beyond that. This is, let me be attentive as an expression of how am I receiving you. Because my ability to chant attentively is actually not very good. It isn't, right? Yes, the getaway car can turn to face Krishna, but it can't actually enter the dimension of Krishna. Because real chanting happens beyond the material body, beyond the material mouth, beyond human ears, beyond the human mind. The real sound vibration is existing somewhere else. So being able to attentively chant really is only done by Krishna's permission and Krishna's grace. And all he wants to see is, try. Show me how much you're trying to love me, or trying to want to learn to love me. And in this way, then, this doesn't matter, really, that we have a tiny brain and a mind that can't understand him, because we don't need the mind and brain to understand Krishna. We have ourself to understand Krishna. Our essential self, our spiritual self, which has a supra consciousness, which has a supra mind, which has a super love for our super friend. So don't be disheartened when you read verses and purports where Srila Prabhupada says our tiny brain or mind it's not possible to understand the inconceivable potencies of the Lord. That's all right. We've been given many other ways. And ultimately, it's down to him whether we understand him or not. All he's waiting for is to see, when you invite me, how will you receive me? So this sweetness of Varahadev, and how, dare I say it romantically, he touches Bhumi with his feet and gently places her on the water. It's all relationship. All relationship. I mean, the whole pastime is wonderful. There's so many wonderful realizations about how Krishna operates. How when, you look at Brahma and how he's in deep prayer, it describes how he gives it a lot of thought, wondering how we're going to free the earth from being submerged in the causal ocean, in the Garbhodaksha ocean. That's his prayer, that's his meditation. How can I serve Krishna as devotee? And then he concludes, actually, only Krishna can do this. And just as that thought, that openness to let Krishna take over, Varahadev literally comes out of him. That happens. Haven't you seen that in your own service? You're meditating on something, and finally, when you surrender to Krishna, look, okay, I think there's only you can deal with this. Something comes out of you. Something comes out of your mouth. Something comes out from your hands, or your thinking, or your life, or your ideas. Something comes out that it's on the money. It's exactly what you need. Like, that's Krishna. That's Krishna. So thank you so much. Oh, wow. My gosh, look at the time. I'm so sorry. I've taken up nearly the whole hour. Please forgive me. I will hand over to you for your questions, your comments, your realizations and corrections. Hare Krishna.
Well, Hare Krishna, thank you so much. As always, it's beautiful how you weaved through lots of different steps that one can take to have a little better understanding of this phenomenon called mind. Dear devotees, if anyone may have questions, comments, reflections, realizations you may want to ask, share, please indicate by using the hand emoji or physical hand, and you'll be asked to unmute. Drishti, please, you may unmute. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji, thank you
Hare
for this
Krishna.
lovely talk. So I've been listening to your talk, and my question is, why receiving Krishna through japa? What is the best thing to do in that moment?
Say that, repeat your question. I couldn't quite catch
so
that.
while receiving Krishna through japa, as you were saying, what do I have to do at that moment? So
Listen.
while I'm receiving him.
Listen.
Receiving.
Yeah. So just like a guest comes to the door, you receive them by looking at them. So we are receiving Krishna as sound vibration. So Prabhupada explains we listen. So this is what I was talking about. We can listen with, you can train yourself to be attentive using your brain and your mind and sitting still and using things to ground yourself. You can also be attentive with curiosity. You can be attentive with interest. You can be attentive with affection or respect. There's different attitudes as well as techniques. But the point is, the same way if someone faces us, we look at them to receive them. So what do we do? Prabhupada explains very clearly. He says, what do you do when you hear something? To receive that, you have to listen, right? So this is the best thing we can do. It's so simple, but we make it complicated because we think we should have some other special recipe just for us that works. We don't want to accept the simple one. But if I was a bit more like this, or if I had a bit more of this, or, if I hadn't done this, Krishna does not care for any of that because the soul is not touched by any of that. The modes do not touch the spiritual self. It's us who keep going round and round in circles, thinking that any of this influences us or Krishna. None of it does. So actually being present with him as his name and with him and his name this is what we do. It's that simple. It's so simple you missed it. I spent a good 10 minutes talking about what we should do when we chant. All I talked about was we should listen. Do you see how simple it is? We'll hear an entire class about chanting or a whole thing about it, and then we'll go, well, how do we chant better? Well, listen, that's it. It's that simple. And I know you're like, okay, but how do I do it? There's so many techniques. I've just gone through a few today. Everybody's got to find their own rhythm, and we have to change it. See, and this is maybe a side note for everybody. We talk about Krishna's mercy being causeless. We talk about SAKTIDEVI being causeless. And how SAKTIDEVI and Krishna's causeless mercy and love and their own inherent causelessness is often explained as It's causeless because we've done nothing to deserve it. There's also another way to look at causeless. Causeless is that there's no one input that will generate a particular outcome. So the reason we have to keep changing how we listen better is, yes, part of it is the nature of the mind being chanchal and, always being distracted. But part of it is also there's not one particular strategy that is going to make Krishna think that that's going to prove to him that, yes, this is, if I chant like this is what will bring Krishna's mercy. There isn't one single input that leads to that output, because he's a person, he's not a machine. And so what he wants from each of us is different. For one person, it may look a little more simpler. For somebody else, it may be a bit more complicated. For somebody else, they may need to change the technique so many times. So what I'm saying is, so if you look at the different types of chanting, so there's Namaparad, which is the lowest type of chanting. You're constantly making offenses, make very, very slow progress. In fact, you may go backwards. There's Namabhas. We should all at least do Namabhas, which is shadow chanting. And the beginning of Namabhas is consistently endeavoring to come back to the name. So when we consistently endeavor, that is where our endeavor is in the moment, but also in all the activities that go around chanting. And the reason it keeps chopping and changing is, yes, like I said, partly is the nature of the body and the mind, but partly is also Krishna is a person. So there is not one formula for attracting his mercy, because it is causeless. There's no one particular cause for his mercy. And so we cannot ever get comfortable thinking, oh, the other day I arranged this. Have you ever done that? You've got this arrangement and one day you've chanted really good rounds. Like, my God, that was so much nectar. And then the next day you create exactly the same situation, or it works for like a week. And then you try it the following week, like, why is everything so dry today? Where's he gone? Why can't I pay attention? Because our ability to be attentive isn't only our own. It's down to him too. So keep it simple, but keep your endeavor variegated, because the mind very quickly, goes, oh, let's look over there instead, especially whilst it's conditioned and not our friend. Parameshwari.
Yes.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Very good.
It's so nice to see you.
Nice to see you too. Are you feeling better?
Yes, I'm getting better. But I'm so happy to see you. I really do miss you. I feel that I haven't been able to have your association like this way, being able to see you, you being able to see me. Really, really appreciate this opportunity. I have a question that I've been wanting to ask you for quite some time, and especially today you're talking about the mind. I find and learn that my mind is, I don't know if sensitive is the right word, but it's just literally like a mirror that whoever that I'm in contact with, especially my client, especially when I see them, I study them as they share things with me, like being super attentive to them.
Mm-hmm.
Then immediately right after that, their association, I almost like I see my mind become that person. And then I started to act like them, think like them, feel like them, carrying their own energy. And it's quite acute, I would say. And in a sense, at the beginning, I thought it is only with my clients, but I started to realize that with pretty much a lot of people, especially when I'm attentive to them, like especially if I have a Zoom call with a friend or, someone, even though they're not my client, I still almost like became dumb after the call with them.
Mm-hmm.
And in that sense, like when I have a call with you or when I talk to devotees, and if devotees very strong and very advanced, I also benefit so immensely from it. But yeah, I just don't know. I think so far, like chanting and just being able to, I think it's very much from the sense of the eyes, that when I see something very like attentively. So I've been trying to watch lectures from my guru and just sit and watch and looking at him and studying him, so that kind of do the impression on my mind. But yeah, I don't know if you have any other thoughts on that and how I can help myself more with that.
Your field is psychotherapy, is that right?
Yes.
So, you know, your mind is like this because that is your tool in your profession, right?
Yes.
We read to be able to read another person's feelings. You do literally cross over into their subtle body. And like you're very clearly articulating, when you go into another person's environment, their subtle environment, you not just see it, but you can pick all of those things up. This happens even if we're sitting next to someone on the train. Now, if you have the kind of subtle body and mind where you're in a profession where you are needing to put down your barriers to go into that space to help them. This also happens when we care about someone as well, like with people with loved ones. Then it's natural that they will be impacted by you and you will be impacted by them. You've described it perfectly. But we have to be careful that whatever tools we've been given to do our services don't become weapons against us. Okay? So you just like when we do surgery, right? You go into the operating theatre and we'll scrub up, right? And we'll wear a gown, we'll wear a cap, you'll wear a mask because you know, it's been a long time since I've done it, but you know, you're going in, often you're dealing with infections or infectious matter. You might be carrying things, you're carrying your own stuff. And so, you know, a surgeon's skill lies in the steadiness of their hand, the sensitivity of the hand to be able to feel different structures. And at the same time, there are so many risks in that, and it can go wrong, and you can't always read where the line is for someone else and for yourself. So one has to take protective measures. So if you've got a particularly sensitive mind, which struggles to shake off what you pick up from your clients or from other people that you care about, like your barrier comes down too quickly, 100% you can strengthen that with your sadhana, which you said you're already doing. You know, in one sense, your sadhana is even more necessary, especially the holy name, because if there's one thing that really changes your subtle energy, it's sound vibration, right? What is it in the work of therapy? You're hearing someone's words. Those words carry the energy that that person is carrying and experiencing. And then those words enter your ear, and that sound vibration permeates your entire body and changes your subtle body. Do you see what I mean? The way they look at you, the way they breathe, the way they sit, all of these things. So the Maha Mantra in itself, just as being a transcendental sound vibration, reshapes, also purifies, cleans, and protects our subtle body, and most of all nourishes the soul. So that absolutely has to be there. In one sense, the chanting attentively is like a protective tonic or medicine for you. I remember after I got initiated, you know, I was at that point, I was a very young junior psychiatrist. I'd only started specializing. And Gurudev said to me, he said, so now you keep your beads with you just like you have your stethoscope around your neck. And he said, because these will protect you from all the difficult things that you're exposed to in your work, subtle and gross. And because that the holy name's got a very transformational potency. Wherever Krishna is, there's nothing else but transcendence. But we receive the degree to which we receive him, to that degree, he's able to manifest all of that and we experience it. So it may seem like an oversimplistic suggestion, but you can refine your chanting. The other thing you can do is also look at, you know, just like a surgeon, you know, and in medicine, we get our different insurances to protect us, right? Different aspects of our work. So you have to use practical things as well. Perhaps You can use breath work. Perhaps you can do some chakra meditations just to strengthen. Maybe your third eye chakra is too open. Maybe your crown chakra is too open. Sorry, my camera has this funny thing. If I point, it moves in and out. So yeah, you can try some of these things because they're in the pursuit of being able to do your devotional service properly. So yeah, just try different people, different things work for different people. Some people have the kind of psychology and body where they need to run off the energy that they've picked up. Other people need to, I don't know, they do some other movement, maybe walking or dancing or whatever it is they do. Others prefer, like I said, doing grounding exercises and chakra work but you do need to, just like we need to keep the house clean to worship Krishna, so we also need to keep this body and mind clean so that we can also feel free to chant. Because if you're carrying a lot of things for other people, your mind is going to be pulled by so many different thoughts and feelings that it may be even harder to be attentive. Is that okay?
Yes, thank you so much. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for the questions and of course the answers. Thank you all so much. Madam Shakti, I have one question. Actually, there are two, but I'll ask this question first. You said so many beautiful things, and one thing you said was like, when we have our tablet, cell phone, computer, whatever we may be doing on any of these gadgets, we're only using a very small part of the entire system. So there is so much left untouched. Now, I was thinking, when you said that, I was thinking about, this tablet, cell phone, computer, I realized that when we have these gadgets and we do not have antivirus, then even without our knowledge, so many unwanted stuff get loaded on our gadgets.
Absolutely.
And I am thinking that when we have this mind and we do not have something to protect this mind from getting attacked by spammers, by phishers, in the form of so many things get downloaded in our subconscious mind without us knowing.
Absolutely.
And eventually they come to haunt us. So my question is, what do we use? How do we protect the mind from all these unwanted spams and phishing thing coming into our subconscious mind without our knowledge, and then later on haunt us? What do we do?
We change what we expose ourselves to. So we are very selective about what environments we go into. And I don't just mean physically, because now the environments people enter is no longer about where their body is, but it's also what space the mind is entering, because we spend so much time now on screens, right? So because we're spending so much time on screens, we are entering new environments without having to physically move from a place. We've already curated living in a location that feels safe and nice and homely, right? We've curated our homes in a particular way. We've selected certain people to live with or not live with, to meet with, to be friends with. But in the time that we spend on our screens, most people, I've noticed, don't make the effort to curate. They are slaves to the algorithm. And so one has to work harder to put things in place to change the environment that they're exposing themselves to. And then furthermore, like I was explaining to Parameshwari, we already have the tonic that protects us. See, as we become spiritually strong, we can move through more environments without getting affected. Again, I can give you the example of healthcare. It's not that once the person has a medical degree or some sort of health degree, they are immune to all diseases. No. But part of the service and part of that role is things are put in place that give you immunity from a lot of things. Okay, and the way you live gives you immunity from a lot of things. So the same with our spiritual life, the stronger, the more we are living in spirit, the less we are affected by the environments we move in. You look at Srila Prabhupada, he could go anywhere and everywhere without it affecting his faith and his determination to receive Krishna with sweetness and to share Krishna with sweetness. At the same time, he was very aware when he was in dangerous environments, and he would pray. He would pray. There's so many accounts of Prabhupada when he'd enter a very opulent or disturbing atmosphere, he would pray to Krishna, please don't let me forget you. Please protect me. Because he also knew that, you know, this is A, it's one way of staying connected to Krishna, but B, he also knew that it doesn't matter how strong the spiritual immune system is. The environment is the environment. Other things are always going to be there. And the mind is always vulnerable to some degree, you know? So why have a disease? Even if you know you've got a strong immune system, why catch a disease to fight off in the first place? Right? So I would say, you know, yeah, we are not a product of just our selves, you know? Our thoughts aren't all our own. So become more than the mind, as in realize you're more than the mind, become more than the brain, become more than what we are automated to be by our environment, become more than what we are automated to be by the things we watch, the things we listen to, the conversations we have. And when we do that, then all of these things will still be there. There'll always be pathogens and toxins, whether they're, you know, entity-based or thought-based. They'll always be there. But it will be like the water dropping off the lotus flower or water off a duck's back. It just beads off. It doesn't touch you. You know, when people are healthy, they can be in a room full of sick people and they don't get sick. So in summary, look at your environments, physical and psychological, and then strengthen your immune system psychologically and spiritually. Yeah, I think it's something we have to be very on guard with, because we have entered a new era. It's not going to go anywhere, this era. This is the digital era. This is the era of ether and air, right? It's the age of Aquarius, I think. And age of Aquarius it's an air sign. So all of the diseases, as well as all the progression, is going to happen on a more subtle level. So this is, in one sense, if I look at Gurudev's books and a lot of the things he was warning us about 20, 25 years ago, it was to prepare us for now. And a lot of our work now is to prepare today's and future generations for that. One needs to become subtly and psychologically not just stronger, but transcendental. Otherwise, this world's going to be a very difficult place to navigate. And we will literally not just create robots, we'll become robots.
Wow, thank you so much. Even though it sounds simple and common, but personally, I didn't think about it that way, like how to curate algorithms, these different apps push on us. I think it's a very, very good tool we all can use to help ourselves. Thank you so much. So we go to Aaron. Please.
Sahadev, didn't you have a second one? You said you had a second question.
I think let's go to the others first.
Okay.
And if we still have some time, then I may ask. We still have something to relate with the mind, and it's very interesting. You get to speak on this because it's your field. Krishna is so kind and merciful.
Did you choose the verse and pick the date?
No, I mean, I don't think so. I did not plan. It just happened.
Yeah, Krishna.
Yeah, you somehow tend to get the right topics or themes. Well, Aaron, please you may unmute.
Hare Krishna, Aaron, it's so good to see you again.
Hare Krishna, yeah, likewise,
Hare
CITI
Krishna.
Shakti Mataji, it's and thanks everyone for your association. Thank you as ever for an insightful class. Since spending some time immersed at your retreat, I've found that my sadhana is increased a lot, improved a lot. In big part to what you were talking about in this class, in honoring the personal relationship with the mantra. But I find that I'll curate my day in chanting and listening to classes rather than allowing myself to listen to news podcasts or whatever, mundane podcasts, etc. And that'll go well for a little while, but then I'll feel this sort of like the worm trying to dive back into the stool part of my mind, like feeling like I'm I don't know, yeah, like an addict who's trying to stop from the material nature, stop consuming the material nature. I'll feel this building desperation to go back and have that thirst for matter. Is that something that I just have to go? Because then I immediately feel the suffering that comes from that, like feeling my consciousness dropping, struggling with not getting as restful sleep and feeling more disturbed in mind generally. Is that just a lesson that I need to keep learning, or is there something that I should be doing to preempt those building thirst for matter?
That's a really good question. Yeah, no, it makes a lot of sense. Makes a lot of sense. It's both things. So one is, yes, part of it is there's some things we just do. We have to go through. That's part of what purification is, in the sense that if you look at a water filter, water's filtered through so many different layers, right? And some particles are removed at the beginning, then on the next, some are removed on the next day. Some have to go through all, I don't know, if you've got a 20-stage filtration system, construction's your field, you know what I'm talking about. You go through some particles are not removed until the 20th stage. So depending on how deep-rooted our desires are and our habits are, whether they're from this lifetime or previous lifetime, we may have to go through certain things a few times before it gets to a point where it's not just, oh, this causes me suffering, but it's like, I think the intelligent thing to do now is just to let this one go. And there's other things where and I'm sure you've had experience of this, where it was just really easy to drop it and really easy to not engage with it. So, this persevering through purification, it does lead to progress. But that perseverance is much easier in the association of devotees. Like you've just said, we had our retreat a couple of weeks ago. And after that, you noticed a big shift. A big part of that was you had an immersive time with devotees. We have gotten in, some parts of the world, there has become more of a culture of, okay, where I have my life and then I'll go to retreats, get a top up and then step back into my life. And hopefully my regular life will be more devotional. But it really, I find it very helpful. And I think this is what's, I would say, has been one of the most helpful things as, in the longevity of my Krishna consciousness, is not just to wait for the immersive experiences that come as a bundle of days and weeks, but also within the day, finding my time for immersion in sadhu sangha or hearing or japa, literally, just like you were, on the retreat, we were all submerged. We didn't think about anything else. We didn't think about clients, patients, customers, bosses, bills, mortgages, relatives. We didn't think about anything. We were just there together from the moment we woke up to the moment we go to sleep. We were thinking about what we're going to talk about next, what we're going to sing for Krishna next, what prasadam are we going to have, what are we going to offer him, what class are we going to have, what's the reflective exercise going to be, how am I going to fine-tune my japa or my hearing or this or that. It was a constant immersion. So even when other things might creep up. It was like, well, I don't have time to think about that. I need to go to this next thing. So being in that space each day, whether that is 1 hour, 2 hours, 2.5 hours, which is like, for this time, it's just me. And it doesn't matter whether I've fallen trapped to, temptation before, or I might even fall victim to temptation after this. For this 1 hour, or for this 2 hours, or this 20 minutes, I'm just here. Whether it's your deity worship, your japa, your reading, or listening to a class, I'm just here. And in-person association, as you've seen, it has such a massive impact. So do that. This is one of our biggest problems, is we bring our past into our current endeavor and it taints it. Or we try to run into the future, which comes after our current endeavor, and we taint it. So the same way we use that technique, we were talking about with japa, don't forget about the previous mantra. Forget about the previous mantra and don't worry about the next mantra, but stay with this mantra. Go one mantra at a time. So same with your, in each day, create a retreat for yourself. Does that make sense? Where you literally retreat away from the rest of the world into that space that you're going to. And don't worry about it. Who cares if 10 minutes ago you were doing the most terrible thing or thinking the most terrible thing? He doesn't care. He wants to know what you're doing now. And where are you now? Are you with me? Or are you so absorbed by what you did wrong that what you did wrong is more important than me? We've had experiences of that in relationships. Some of us maybe experienced this, where the other person in the relationship, whether it's a friendship or any kind of relationship, they've made a mistake and they stay away from you because they're more preoccupied with their mistake. You forgave them a long time ago. And it's frustrating, isn't it? Krishna gets really knocked off. He's like, what are you doing? You're just so absorbed in your problem, you've forgotten that I'm actually standing in front of you. You're so busy beating yourself up. You've forgotten who you're beating yourself up for. I'm here. You don't need to worry about beating yourself up anymore. Does that make sense? Okay.
Yeah, I think Aaron says yes.
Yes, I see him nodding.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Thank you so much for that. Yeah, thank you for expanding on that. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for that beautiful question, Aaron. Drishti, please, you may unmute.
Hare Krishna Mataji, I've got another question.
Sure.
I'm a little bit curious about how does a deaf person is able to receive Krishna?
Vibration. Every sound has a vibration. That's how, musicians who are deaf still play instruments. They feel the vibration. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
Krishna.
Well, I think we have Parameshwari and Parameshwari Devi, please.
Yeah, I just have another hopefully quick follow-up question of my question earlier.
Right.
I'm trying to get to the point of chanting to please Krishna and not expecting anything from him for me. And so I think, in a sense, like I share about a struggle with the mind, but I think for some, I'm kind of trying to be in that mentality where I'm like not kind of like, okay, if Krishna wants to help me, it's up to him, but I don't want to pray for him to help me. So and then you also share how Srila Prabhupada prayed to Krishna as well. So I'm a little bit confused. I'm trying to navigate that. Can you share some thoughts on that?
Yes, so we pray differently depending on what stage of relationship we are with him. And it is natural to pray to the person you want to get to know, to ask them to create facilities for you to be able to get to know them better. That's natural. Even relationships here, what are we doing when we're asking someone, when can we meet, when can we speak? It's a request, it's a prayer, right? Can you make a facility that we can have time together? So when we make prayers, Krishna, help me with this, so I can spend more time with you. Help me with this, so I can serve you better. Who else are we going to go to? If we don't go to him, who else is going to help us with that? It's got to be him. See, there's two ways of looking at this, or there's many ways of looking at this whole idea of being unattached to our request. There's that saying, man proposes and God disposes, right? we can request, we can endeavor. We don't stop requesting and endeavoring as a sign of I'm not attached to the outcome. We still ask. Now, the thing is, when you live a life of Krishna consciousness after a period of time and after numerable instances of seeing that Krishna's plan usually turns out better than ours, it becomes much easier to pray and not expect. And that not expectation isn't because we don't think he's going to come through, or we're scared of being disappointed, or we want to be a good devotee. But that lack of expectation is born of, I trust so much that you're going to come through. I don't even have to expect it. It's like, it's not an entitlement that I have a right to it. It's not just hope. It's experience. Actually, over the years, Krishna's always done what's best for me. And so I'll make my prayer, because in my prayers, I communicate to Krishna where our relationship is at. But I also trust that what the outcome is will be in the best interest of primarily my relationship with him, because that is what he protects. It may not manifest as protection of other relationships or other things. And then as one surrenders more and more and more, then actually it becomes much more about, well, what about you, Krishna? What can I offer you? What do you need from me? I'm not going to ask you for anything. Because if we do it prematurely and artificially, not asking him for anything can end up being pride, that I can just do this myself. I don't need to ask you for anything. Actually, if there's one person we do humble ourselves in front of and ask, is him. And that's love. I love you. I know I can turn to you. So yeah, we must be careful to not prematurely get into a space where we don't ask for anything.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yes. I think there's something kind of well, but then my mind's blank now. So I think I just pray to Krishna on it, and yeah.
Okay.
I feel like there was something more that kind of like churning one more thing, but then yeah, my mind just went blank.
The mind very quickly loses things. It's vast. Things get lost in there quickly. I just wanted to make one more comment on actually Drishti's question. I gave a very brief answer.
Yeah.
And it was a technical answer in that, yes, they can experience the sound vibration as a vibration. But actually, it's Krishna's name is not material. So actually, we don't even need ears to be able to hear it. It's actually the sound vibration itself is a spiritual sound. Yes, we may utter it with the mouth. It may play on a tape recorder, or someone else may be saying it. It may be vibrated through the throat and tongue. But actually, the actual, Krishna is independent of everything, even our hearing. So really, it's the attitude, but on a technical level, it is the vibration. That's what when somebody has a hearing impairment, they feel the vibration, just like we can. Put a hand on our chest and we're chanting, and you wore, and somebody cut off your hearing, you'd feel it. You'd feel it in your chest. You'd feel it in your throat. So definitely the vibration is there. There's no impediment to Krishna. He can always come through. So Sahadev Prabhu, we have come to 4:30. I'm happy to continue if you have a question. Otherwise, we can.
Yes, I have one quick question. Excuse me. I think I jotted something down here. Where is it? So I don't forget. Okay, I got it here. So the question is, Lord Shri Krishna is beyond the 8 material elements, of which the mind is one of the elements of the 8 material elements. Even though it's subtle, but it's still a material element. So if Krishna is beyond the material elements, including the subtle elements, how do we in any way try to understand the appearance, the disappearance, and the activities of the Lord, by which, if we truly understand, as you quoted from the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna himself stating it, that we do not take birth again. How do we use this mind to understand God, who is beyond the mind?
The mind is a medium. Just
Okay.
like the deity is non-different to Krishna, but is also a medium, because actually, ultimately, as our puja becomes more deep, one stops seeing the deity and actually sees Krishna. When one sees the deity, they see Krishna. So, and remember, one form of the deity is the image of the Lord in the mind. Yes? So, in the same way, we use the faculty of the human mind to read, to chant, to process what we hear, to hold attitudes, feelings, thoughts, in such a way that is facilitative to our devotional life. But ultimately, yeah, of course, we can't understand Krishna's appearance and disappearance and activities by a mind which is not transcendental. But this conditioned mind can become unconditioned, and it can become a clear bridge. And this is essentially what happens in Raganuga Bhakti, whether it's spontaneous or in practice, is that mind is a bridge. It becomes a home for meditation on Krishna. And then the reason I say a bridge is because ultimately meditating on Krishna comes from the soul. So this is why I mentioned the supra intelligence, the supra mind, the supra consciousness. These are, in our eternal nature, we have personality, intellect, ability to think, perceive, feel, etc. Those come alive. And that's really where we start to experience the transcendental appearance and activities of Krishna. But this human mind is a bridge. Just like, even though Krishna is beyond the senses, we use the senses. We use the sense of speech to talk about him. We use the sense of the tongue to taste prasad. We use the sense of hearing to hear his name, even though he's beyond these things. So when he sees we are using, like I said, the getaway car to come back to him, then eventually we don't need the getaway car. We're in it, we're living in it, we function, but we're connecting with him as us. If you look at the writings of the Goswamis, they've given us great manuals on practicing bhakti. But they've also written great books on living in bhakti, where they've described what they see in their meditation, what they see in their real life, in their eternal life, the pastimes of Radha and Krishna, their particular services. You look at Vilap Kusumanjali, this is, these are actually the life of Rati Manjari, what she does each day. Yes, so these things have been made available to us. These are not born of the mind. These are born of the soul and they're experienced by the soul. Krishna consciousness is real. It's available.
Very real.
And
See, I think maybe at an appropriate time, I may need to have a personal consultation with you, because I can attest to what you just said, the material mind and the spiritual mind. There was a point in time in my devotional life that somehow Krishna, Guru, mercifully transformed my crazy mind to spiritual.
mm-hmm.
And I experienced some things beyond my own understanding.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought it was going to keep staying there. It disappeared. And I don't know. I mean, I understand why it disappeared, but I don't know how to go back to it. I don't know how to pray to the Lord for the mercy to flow back into me again. But it's so real that Krishna consciousness is not concoction. It's really, you try to live it, and if you will receive a little bit of mercy, whatever we read from the scriptures, we're also going to taste it. But like I said, I tasted a little bit, which was so beautiful. Now it's gone. So that's what I'm saying. I would need personal consultation some other day with you. So you
You
help
know,
me
there
go
comes
back.
there does come a point where the goal isn't to achieve those experiences. We're not even chasing after those experiences, but those.
Oh, but I would love to have it again, though.
I'm sure, and it will come. But it's like
Okay.
Krishna gives those little nuggets. Like,
Yeah.
if you continue to keep trying to show me that you love me, then this is a glimpse of what's to come. It's like when I don't know if you remember those old radios and televisions where you had to turn the dial,
Yeah.
find the channel.
Yeah.
And when you get a glimpse, it gives you hope, right? You're turning in the right
Yeah.
direction.
Yeah.
Sometimes when devotees have had these experiences, I've said, have a look, just see what was going on for you at that time. That may have attracted that kind of mercy. Now, it may be that you may do the same thing and it doesn't attract that mercy. One thing I've seen time and time again, though, and this is hands down consistent, is the most reliable thing to attract causeless mercy is pleasing devotees. And so if I experience anything that suggests that there's been some shift in my devotional life, like somebody out there is pleased with me. And sometimes it is the most simple thing. Lending someone an arm to lean on because they can't get up from their chair. Being kind to someone. Sometimes it's as simple as that. In fact, often it's as simple as that.
Sometimes it's as simple as just listening.
Absolutely.
Wow. Beautiful. Well, Mother Chiti Shakti, thank you so much. We cannot thank you enough. It's a little bit late. Dear devotees, I believe we've come to the end of today's Srimad Bhagavatam Katha. And we hope and pray that we do not just become listeners, but we become hearers. It's interesting the scriptures talk about hearing without listening. Hearing means we listen, we absorb, and we keep what we listened in our thoughts and try to live them. So we pray that we all can try our little best to try to live what we've learned together today so that we'll become better devotees tomorrow. With that being said, Mother Chiti Shakti, if you may make a very quick concluding remark, then we'll bring this to a final close.
I've said so much. Are you sure
You've said so much? We still want to hear from you. Concluding remark.
Please pray for me, send me your blessings and good wishes that I can be of some small service to you. Hare Krishna.
Well, Hare Krishna, thank you so much. We all pray the same. Vaid also says, thank you so much for the lovely class, Hare Krishna. Thank you so much for this class, Aaron. Yes. Dear devotees, we thank you all. We have this ritual we all do. We're going to humbly request you all to kindly unmute yourselves. And we all with one voice, one heart, one love, chant Hare Krishna Maha Mantra to express our deepest appreciation to our beloved speaker, Her Grace Chiti Shaktidevi, for sharing her love and wisdom with us all today. Jai. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Pancha kalpa tarabhyascha, sankatyeva patitana pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki.
Jai.
Hare Krishna, praise Chiti Shaktidevi ki jai.
Prabhupada ki jai.
Krishna Prabhupada ki jai. All grace to some of the Vaishnava devotees ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Oranga.
Thank you very much.
Devotees, we thank you. Hare Krishna. All right.